Francisco Menendez is, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Abel?
Release. To give us a presentation on fire escapes. As many of you know, the 15-point plan as part of Chapter 31 of the Life Safety Code lets fire escapes be used as a second means of egress, provided that the AHJ says that, that he's determined that they're in good repair. A lot of times, what does in good repair really mean? When should you be looking at a fire escape and saying, no, that needs either more work or I think that that's okay? So this should give us some background as to when you can actually look at a fire escape as a second means of egress in certain limited occupancies and have an idea of the background on knowing when and if it should be considered safe, and if not, what you can do about it from that point on. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to you and I'll get right out of your way. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to start playing a news piece that Channel 7 did many years ago, right after the Station Night Fire. So, and they were concerned about fire escapes also. And what they wanted to talk about is to show people that there's another means of egress out of your building. So, this is the Hank Philby Ryan story. Okay. And this is one of our training videos we just did 2 weeks ago down in East Orange.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a fire. The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him.
Oh, I was scared to death.
But the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes.
So then over here?
For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the
Correct.
fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files.
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
To see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, But they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
So that was right after the Station Night fire. And,
Yes, I am.
this is the same class that we teach, we teach cars last week.
Whether the class is in a setting
And
like
we have
this,
6 fire inspectors in a room.
nice room, or
What
whether
are we
the
talking
class
about?
is in a setting
Fire
like this,
escapes.
one of your
Yeah, I have
academy.
about 25 or 30 or 40 people in here. We're talking about the same
The reason
thing.
why we record it is because you may not be able to get the same people, or you're gonna get fresh new people in the future, but instead of having to get everybody.
So this class is being recorded, in case you forget something that we said today. In case you want to train some of your other people, you'll be able to go on YouTube. It's called Firescape Academy, if you want to write that down. Firescape Academy, there's about 400 videos of other people that have sat. What year was the Station Night fire? We've been showing this since '03. This video is either 8 days old or 8 years old. Can you tell the difference? This problem in Boston is the same problem you have in Rhode Island. It's the same problem we have in New York, the same problem I have in Seattle, the same problem I have in Chicago. And we've visited every one of those cities, and we've given a class just like this in every one of those cities, using this as the starter. This is not a unique problem that you guys have here in the Northeast. It's a unique problem that the entire country has. And all it is, and just to sort of piggyback off what the state fire marshal was talking about, there's no standard. So when we came out of this sort of triggered an event, and I said, you know what, there's no standard, because I went looking for fire escape confidence tests. There wasn't any, so I made one. There wasn't any tags, so I made one. There wasn't any repair standards, so I made one. There was a huge mystery about fire escapes, to the point that, you know, one of the things that we said right at the beginning of this video, starting April of 2012, the National Fire Escape Association was started this year. And what's that for? It's for guys like you to be able to go there and say, give me an industry standard documentation that is a confidence test, that I can just copy and use. Industry standard tags that I can copy and use. Repair guidelines that I can copy and use. Because I got all these guys asking me questions and I don't know what to tell them. But if I can point them in a direction, because that's where we get our training. And at this nationalfirescape.org, you'll have videos they'll have copies of this video that you guys can watch. So some of you are not going to be here next year because you've either retired, moved on. So how do you train the next guy to have the same information? He just watches this video. So when you go to, and I'll exit out here and then I'll start the class. When you go to Firescape Academy, and I send you a playlist, that's why I was getting all your cards, and I go to my videos here, and I'll send this to you. This seminar is going to be added to my playlist of many seminars, and I have seminars and what's called inspector training, meaning I physically walked out with an inspector and did a downtown walk around and recorded that conversation. So if somebody here wants to hang out with me at the end of this and we want to go into downtown and spend 30 minutes, I will use 1 or 15 or 30 of you. And I will train you because I have tons of videos, so in case you can't, I have tons of videos here of us doing that. But you would go to, I'm going to show you the national seminar one here, which I will send to you. As you can see, I have many playlists here, but I have what's called National Inspector Training, and that's from Boston to Seattle. People just like you, building departments, fire departments, and housing inspectors being trained on the same thing. But I have here something that's called nationwide seminars. And I have 28 videos in there. And these 28 videos are basically every video that we've ever recorded, we put it up there, and it's free of charge. It's called Firescape Academy, so you can use that to sort of hear this very same story. I might miss one slide that is a little bit different, but it's all the same. And then I also have Firescape Inspector Training, which is, 3 to 5 minute videos of me with one of you that I corralled into your debut on Firescape Academy. Now, with all this, this is all on the name of my company is called Firescape Services. We're also known as Firescape Engineers. Today we're going to be talking about the project that we did down there at Cliffside Inn. So we'll use that at the end. But all these here are for you to use with your inspectors. So if we don't have time to have an intimate inspection training with one of your crews, then just use one of these training videos since you meet every Tuesday or every Wednesday, just watch the videos. These guys can watch it at home. It's all free on YouTube now. They have a smartphone, they can watch it on YouTube. And what it is, it's just common sense stuff. So what we're going to cover today in the class, and anybody can just type in Firescape Academy, and there's about 400 videos there. So I'm sure you're going to find something you like. But now let's start talking about what we're going to be covering today. Seminars, samples, and ideas and standards. So if everything we're going to be talking about today is something that came up out of necessity. So there's a standard form for confidence test. If you want one, we did a class, and again, it's usually after somebody falls down, somebody gets hurt. So we have one that we did for Seattle, Tacoma, we've done a lot in New Jersey. Kane University makes me teach a 6-hour continuing ed course on Firescape. Today's 1 hour, a little bit, but this class can actually go and get some credits. I don't give the credits, you guys have to put me through one of your association. You guys get, this thing could be a 6-hour continuing ed credit class. And those are up online. And the main purpose is how do you keep the firemen safe? So I'm going to show you everything I have in this one that you're going to get today. And this is all shrunken versions of everything, so I can keep this thing light. But if you give me, we'll actually send you a book, a Firescape manual book that has all these standards in there. Now, let me just start opening up here, then I'll, one of the things we're going to be teaching you is how do you make this a checklist item? You guys got so much on your on your plate, and you've been reduced because everybody has got a reduction in staff. So how do you make Firescape something important? Because right now, Firescapes are we call it the foster child of egress. It's the last thing on your mind. We can't take a position up by sprinklers or up by smoke detectors, but if we become a checklist item, that's all we're going to teach you. How to make Firescapes a checklist item so that you ask for it, so that when you're signing off on your smoke detector, you ask for a copy. You don't order a test, you ask for a copy of the current certification on that Firescape. Because when you get awoken by that smoke detector, guess where you're going to go if your second means of egress is external? So you're just asking for a copy. Your building inspectors in Boston, right after that Channel 7 news piece, made it a checklist item so that you can't close a permit. You can open a permit, but you can't close a permit without having a current copy of a certification. They're not ordering inspections, they're saying we need a copy of your current certification. So that is another checklist item. So these are the little things we're going to talk about. Today we're going to cover the fact that, if you look on this page, downtown walkarounds. If you can't go to one today, we have plenty that we're recording. Watch them because they're very informative for you and your staff. We also teach line guys. I taught 400 firefighters in Elizabeth, New Jersey in a 4-day period. And how to make them spotters, not inspectors of Firescape, just finding these things in every nook and cranny of your city. So if you got 100, 200, or 500 guys on your staff and they do pre-plans all the time, they're going out and there's a lottery going on that says the more Firescapes you find, that guy gets something, something. We're going to talk about credentials. And these credentials means every engineer and every Firescape inspector is going to, before they inspect any building in your city, will send you his credentials. They'll prove to you that he has some knowledge about Firescapes, even if he is a structural engineer, because I got plenty of structural engineers that shouldn't be inspecting Firescapes. We're going to talk about tags, and these tags already exist. This is not an idea. This is already existing in certain states, particularly in Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, where somebody fell off the building and then they brought us in to help. So if Firescapes are white, they're all right. If they yellow or red, you've got some issues. Now, everybody knows here, and we don't have any news people in here coming in, but in case of fire, a lot of the gray-haired guys tell the new guys that still start with hair, but they don't realize they're gonna lose it all by the time they get down to the end. Gray-haired guys say this in a whisper to everybody, in case of fire, don't use the, right? Nobody tells that to the tenants, nobody tells that to, you know, the people that are going up and down the fire escape to change a window, the facilities guys, nobody says that. Yet you guys have this knowledge that you're not sharing with anybody. And why is that? Because somebody dropped the ball. Somebody dropped the ball on the inspection side. So if you get to a fire escape in the middle of the night and there's a white tag on it, guess what you have now is that's the norm. Guess what you can do immediately? If you see a yellow or a red, what do? You have all the right to say what he just said. Don't use it. It's questionable. So the first thing we're going to do is in this 75-year-old problem, we're not going to go fix every fire escape tomorrow. We're going to go find them and just identify them. And just put yellow or red tags on them. And a red tag means you see a physical piece of steel dangling. Otherwise, every fire escape in your city, once it gets identified, will get a yellow. Who gets it to the white? It's going to be a structural engineer or a fire escape inspector. Confidence tests. If you look at these confidence tests, what this is, and this is online already, you can go to seattle.gov, go to their fire prevention, and they have a bunch of confidence tests, and one of the confidence tests is the confidence test I designed, they used. Now, this confidence test is a final exam for the building, the structural engineer, because there's questions in here that are statements that should he answer in the negative, and he's lying, he's opening himself up to liability. And the last thing we have is the yearly walkthrough. This yearly walkthrough is not to be done by a structural engineer. This yearly walkthrough is supposed to be done by the manager and or owner of the building who walks his fire escape. We have a running joke now that says, but right now we're trying to pass a national law that says all rent checks from now on must be collected through the fire escape. And all the tenants must duct tape their checks to the outside of the window, and then call the management company and the landlords and say, hey, I've got your rent check. As a matter of fact, I still see last month's rent check out there. When are you going to come and get it? Because then you'd have a lot of fixed fire escapes, or a lot of dead landlords, right? But that's an inspector, because they're asking you to do the same thing. See, these landlords are asking you to be a fire escape, a live load tester, because two things are happening. The whole thing's collapsing and you're getting hurt, or the whole thing is collapsing and you're getting maimed, or the whole thing's collapsing and you and people and somebody you're trying to save ends up dead. So we have standard confidence tests that exist out there. So we're going to talk about those. And some of these, for example, this confidence test, it's in Seattle.gov, you download it, and it's in Word or PDF, and you change Seattle and you put your name on it, done. We also talk about designs and solutions, because you got a lot of pre-existing buildings. Now, let's just be very clear. The law of the land is no new fire escapes. You guys agree with that, right? No new fire escapes. Yeah, on new buildings. You dig a hole in the ground, you will never be able to put a new fire escape on that new building. But you take a mansion, you take any structure that has 4 sides to it, and I'm going to convert it to something else, and I've exhausted every means of egress. I'm putting an internal staircase on that. You know what you're going to give me? And you're not going to win. If you fight me, I'm going to put a fire escape on that building, because the law says I can. If I've exhausted every possibility, you know, because I bought this beautiful mansion for $5 million, and it's got a central staircase, and I'm putting 2 condos on the right, and I'm putting 2 condos on the left, and the only answer, without gutting the whole inside, which is historically protected, is some fire escapes on the outside, through a window or through a door. So yes, I can build new fire escapes all day long, as long as you guys keep these buildings up. So unless you start to knock down every single building that you have, fire escapes are going to be around and fire escapes are coming. And you have existing fire escapes that I must maintain indefinitely. And no, you're not going to make me upgrade it to, you know, the current code, because as long as I'm not doing any significant changes to the structure, I can indefinitely maintain that fire escape forever. And yes, I can have a wood fire escape on a wood building, because I have to match the building type. A lot of it is just about the thickness of the fire escape. So metal fire escapes and wood fire escapes are going to be there. So I'm going to give you industry standard repair guidelines. I even have an industry standard load test. So if you want to know what a load test is, I've demystified it. I've put in there what's required. We're going to talk about a load test. And the last thing that we're going to talk about, if you go to the back now, is industry standard reporting. Guys, everybody owns a digital camera today. Why are you still getting reports from an engineer that is a 2-page write-up with no photographs to help you see what's wrong with this fire escape? You know, the fire escape has deterioration and needs some repair. Dude, that's not telling me anything. So industry standard reporting we're gonna talk about today, industry standard repair guidelines. These are all things you want to have from some engineer who's working in your city that says, I've got this under control. You wanna say, great, show me some, follow the industry standard on how you're gonna guide my vendor, my repair vendor, who used to be in the landscaping business. He's gonna fix his fire escape accordingly. And with that, the last piece we're gonna throw at you is the EPA. Here you have the EPA who stepped in 2010 and says, hey, any fire escape older than 1978 presumed to have lead. Does anybody know of any fire escapes in Rhode Island that are older than 1978? It's all of them. So they all have lead. Guess what we can't do on them anymore? Can you burn lead? Is welding burning? So is welding now a form of repair? The best thing about this is that all fire escapes, 98.5% of them, are bolted fire escapes. Because they heat up in the summer, and they do this, and they cool down in the winter, and they do this. But as soon as you weld them, they do this. So what that means is a lot of these welded fire escapes start falling apart after so many years. But a majority of them are bolted, and the way you fix them, you just change bolts. Remove rust, change bolts. So we're going to cover that today too. So what we have here is we're going to cover all the aspects. And what we need to teach you guys in today's class is quickly how can you spot fire escape and how to write the right violation. And we're going to start by, you will never write a scrape and paint violation ever again, because that's how they get you. So I'm one of those guys that has worked all sides of the fence. I've repaired fire escapes, I've painted fire escapes, I've inspected fire escapes. I've done it with permits and I've done it without permits. So let's talk about the permit process. If I'm painting a fire escape, do I need a permit? So every time you walk up to me, you catch me doing anything on a fire escape, what am I doing? I'm painting my fire escape. So the fact that I'm painting a fire escape, can I also kind of nonchalantly tell you, I'm changing a couple of bolts, but it's just a couple. You gonna force a permit on me? For 75 years, nobody's ever forced a permit. So everybody is fixing fire escapes on their repair permit when it doesn't exist. So I fix fire escapes, landscapers fix fire escapes, and electricians fix fire escapes. I got a florist that will fix a fire escape. You know why? Because he's qualified. He can pull a paint permit. So as soon as you, any violation that you write from now on, you can't say scrape and paint, because who can paint fire escapes now? Owners paint them, electricians paint them, florists paint them. So even on the paint side now, because of the lead law, you have to have a licensed renovator touch these fire escapes. Okay? So with that being the case, here's where we're going to be teaching you guys a lot of the standards that come out of this. The violation that you will write from now on will only be 3 words: repair, paint it, test it. And that's going to cause a little bit of confusion when you write a violation. And they're asking you, repair what? Because they want you to say that tread. Because you know what they do? They call me. And this is what happens on a typical 5-story fire escape. I get a call that says, hey, I got a violation from one of my inspectors, and he says, my tread broke. How much to fix my tread? I'm like, no, what he wants you to do is he wants a full evaluation of the fire. No. And they hang up on me. So they call Joe the painter to come down because it says scrape and paint. And you mentioned that one tread. So Joe the painter comes down and walks a 5-story fire escape and says, hey, I can do this fire escape for a couple of grand. But you got that one broken tread. He goes, yeah, I know, I'm going to have an iron worker come down and look at it. So then he calls an iron worker down to look at the same fire escape, and he says, hey, how much to repair that tread, because I have a painter coming in. He goes, oh, I paint too. I can not only fix that tread, but I can fix the tread and paint it. Let me take a look. So as he walks up, he realizes that all the treads are bad and he's got a lot of work there. He comes back down and says to the guy, listen, there's not just that tread. All the treads are gone, and this thing needs to be refurbished. We got about $15,000 worth of work here, and including the paint job. So the guy goes, thanks, give me your bid. So they get to the end of the day, he's got your violation that says scrape it and paint it, and fix that tread. And then he's got 2 bids. He's got Joe the painter for $2 grand, and he's got Bob the iron worker for $15,000. Guess who wins? Guess who's won for 75 years? Because the violation you wrote is causing confusion, and people are using it against us to get the right work done. So the word is, you write repair, paint, test. That's all you write. Because the word repair, you're gonna get a phone call that says, hey, you wrote the word repair. Repair what? He goes, I don't know. I'm not the inspector. I wanted a professional critical evaluation done by a structural engineer or others acceptable to me. And from that report, it'll tell you what needs to be done. Then I want it painted. And then depending on the level of repair you do to that, I may or may not order a load test. Because if you refurbish a fire escape 100%, do you really need to load test it? The bolts get changed out. You get a letter from a structural engineer that says, with no disclaimers, this fire escape is certified repaired. There's no rust in any connections. The tiebacks into the building have been verified or duplicated. Do you want to spend another $3,000 to $5,000 testing that 5-story fire escape if it's been refurbished? That's what we're going to cover today. Because the norm is nationwide. Now, I'm 50 years old. I got hijacked by my dad when I was 10. I've only done one load test in my entire life. So load test is not what everybody does nationwide. And the load test wasn't here. It was in California on a 10-story. And not ordered by a fire marshal, not ordered by a building inspector. It was ordered by the owner saying, I want a load test. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This is the situation, and you can tell by the type of hat that they're using. You can see that there's a lot of guys on this. This is a very old picture, but this is a typical situation. It's the firefighter's worst nightmare. That platform right there, let's say it's 4x4. That's 16 square feet times 100 pounds per square foot equals 1,600 pounds. 1,600 pounds, if the average fireman is 300 pounds with all his gear, that's 5 full firemen. Can you fit 5 full firemen with all their gear in a 4x4 box? Can you? Can you fit 5+ guys in a 4x4 box? So this thing's already overbuilt. The same people, if I had that many pounds, I had 150-pound people. I could put 10 150-pound people in a 4x4. Can that ever happen? So these fire escapes are overbuilt. If they're strong and they're certified, this is not a problem. This fire escape can hold that and some elephants if you want, because these things are overbuilt. The biggest issue that's going to happen now, some of you may remember this particular event that happened up in Boston on Marble Street. 1972, the reporter was from the Herald was taking some photographs of the fire, and the woman and her niece and the fireman, and that's the ladder coming over, and at the last second, what gave way? The fire escape. And everybody fell. She tried to grab the fireman. He survived because he hung on with one hand. He caught the ladder. She tried to hang on to him. She didn't survive. The niece survived, and this is the Pulitzer Prize winning photograph. So what happens here is that fire escapes can save lives, or fire escapes can take them. And that's what everybody's scared about when they say, hey, what's going on with the fire escape? In case of fire, don't use it. Because for 75 years, there's been no standard to inspect them, and that's what we're going to cover today. And all of a sudden now, this is what everybody's worried about. Let's see if we can change that. Here's the standard. Here's where people are getting hurt every day. This is called live load testing. Live load testing happens in many ways, and that is, you guys will do live load testing when you're out there saving people. You know, you've got people that are, they can't be evacuated out the front for some reason. You've got fires. You guys have to get out of the building. You have no choice but to jump on that fire escape to get out of the building. It's called a live load test. You've got people watching parades all the time. You've got, this is an old picture, but prior to having any air conditioning, you used to sleep on these fire escapes. And then, this is when workers are working on a fire escape. One of our guys, his dad out of Chicago, this is not his picture, but it's a similar situation, fell 7 stories. He's dead. People are taking photographs on fire escapes now. These things are 75+ years old. Students are out hanging out because it's a non-smoking building. Guess where they smoke? Guess where they grow their plants? Guess how they get from one party to the next party? This happened down here, I think it's by Blackstone, I believe. And this is a building where the owners, prior to turning this into condos, wanted to fix their own roof. So the owner and his sons took the fire escape off, did the roof, put the fire escape back. Plenty of extra bolts. What do you do with those? So I'm on the fire escape similar to that one down there. This is this is triplet. This is the second one, and I'm on the third. All of them were in a state of collapse. What occurred here was that they were selling the building. So the seller and the real estate agent, the buyer and the real estate agent, plus a trustee from the building, were all climbing this fire escape. And they all fell. Now 2 stories. You fall 2 stories with that much steel, you get a lot of dead bodies. They only fell 12 feet. And they're all sitting on top or below this mangled mess. And you know the first thing you grab for when you're on top or below a mangled mess, you grab your phone and you call who? There you go. You call your lawyer, you call who? Call 911. Because you want you to lay there, because this thing has to get documented. Don't get up, just lay there and hold your neck for a long while until everybody shows up and documents the situation. It's called live load testing. Here's another live load test. We're also expert witnesses on some cases where we have to investigate. So it's like CSI fire escapes. Here's in Iowa, 3 college students up there watching the fireworks. And what occurred? The fire escape fell to the roof, fell to the ground, and this is some of the scene shots taken during the event. None of them got killed. This owner owns a majority of property that houses students for Iowa State. What happened was, they took the parts and they put it in a field, like 8 blocks away. Then we're here on investigation. A lot of these people are lawyers. We're looking for the pieces of the puzzle, and instead of keeping it in a room or a garage somewhere, the guy just threw it in the field. And that's when we found
Hold on a second.
the piece, the bolt.
Please, can we?
That said that when these guys put the fire escape back, because they did some work on it, they didn't through-bolt it back in, they lag-bolted it back in. So they had a 1/2-inch hole for a previous through-bolt that was there that they removed, and then the workers put it back in, so they put a 1/2-inch lag bolt in a 1/2-inch hole. And then it was a hand grenade waiting for some kids to come and play, and they got these 3 kids. They put the fire escape back. It wasn't properly installed. Down here at this corner, you can actually grab that low platform, walk it away, and bring it back. So this case is still an ongoing case. This is in Boston. This is a 5-story building going towards a 4-story building on a hill. So the 5th-story apartment feeds onto the next guy's deck. If you're 26 years old and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you've been drinking with you and your girlfriend and you got this beautiful deck and it's summertime, what do? You ask permission, or you go out, hang out on the neighbor's roof deck, because they're not using it. But then when the phone rings, who should get the phone? The guy who's in the apartment who knows the route, or his girlfriend who doesn't know the route? And then because there's some missing pieces of the railing here, she falls 5 stories to her death. Now because of missing pieces of a fire escape. So these are the kind of things we're going to be talking about, because right now, a lot of you guys, we're going to be teaching you today how to look out of a window, and you will determine the adequacy of that fire escape. You will walk underneath the fire escape and look up, and you'll determine the adequacy of a fire escape. If everything is 50 to 75 years old, this is going to be some telltale signs. You guys are, I heard you speaking a little bit about the origin of the fire, right? So you guys walk into a building, it's all burnt, you're like, okay, there's an origin of the fire, and you can usually tell because it's the most disintegrated part of the fire, right? Nobody else knows that. Some people don't know that. Well, you're going to get to a fire escape, and you're going to look up, and this fire escape is 75 years old, and that's what we're going to cover today. And every fire escape built 75 years ago has these square head bolts. Every fire escape built older than that has rivet heads on it. So you get to a fire escape in your building that is pristine, painted black, or blue, or beige, and you look up for evidence of one thing, evidence of maintenance. Because in 75 years, somebody changed some bolts, right? Primarily in the treads, right? I've changed, for sure in 75 years, anything sitting outside, you've changed something. Old cars can't last outside for 75 years. Boats can't hang outside for 75 years. Houses don't hang outside untouched for 75 years. Yet somebody has been able to leave a piece of metal outside in the snow, giving it air and water, which is what rust needs to grow, and you look up and you can't see one hex head bolt changed on the treads. So you look at it and see nothing but square heads. You're like, it's called original hardware. Do you need to see any more? Is there any evidence of maintenance? If all you see is square heads. If you see nothing but rivets, is there any evidence of maintenance? You've got a violation there. That's all you need. So if all of a sudden there is maintenance, you look up, you're going to see all these little shiny hex heads or painted hex heads. And they look totally different than squares. You don't have to look for rust in the connection. You don't have to look for too many things. Those are going to be other obvious things. But you're going to get to a lot of pristinely painted fire escapes because they know you were coming a week ago. And you know what the first thing they throw on the internet to basically blind you? As a coat of paint. Because that's for the past 50 to 75 years, they've been getting scrape and paint violations. They think that's all you need because nobody is critically inspecting these things. But now you're going to be taught with an eyeball that says, I see nothing but original hardware, and minimally I want this original hardware. You're going to guarantee me that this is working in one of only two ways that we're going to cover today. If you got a pristine fire escape with squares and rivets and nothing else, and there's no rust in any connection, I just want to load test. Because as soon as you load test it, I am now confirming that even with age, this thing can handle the weight. Or, because you looked at that it was going to be $5,000, let's say, to load test that fire escape. Or if you change all the bolts because there's no rust to be removed, it's just a swap out of bolts, it was $5,000 to swap all the bolts. Which you think is better for the client? A total refurbishment of every bolt today and no load test, or load test it today and then 5 years from now have the same. Cape Academy Inspector Training. Here we are in Lowell, Massachusetts. Bob, say your last name. Marsiglia, Italiano? Si. We're here looking at, he's the building commissioner in the city of Lowell, and we have a fire escape right down by our feet. What's the greatest thing about this is we're going to be able to see all the rust and the connections. We're going to see all original hardware and squares. We're going to basically, he had a class today, and what we're basically looking at is a fire escape that no more paint is on it. So this is a perfect one because I can get my nose right into it. And this is a perfect example of everything that can go wrong with a fire escape. Let's talk about this one. And then we're going to go look at these other ones and a big monster that's on the back. So this may be a 10 to 15 minute video, but what is on here works there. So let's take a look. More paint and rust or more rust and paint? So that's all you need. Let's say they knew you were coming, Bob, and they painted this thing 100%. What are you looking for next?
The original hardware.
Original hardware. So let's show people what original hardware is. This is a square bolt. Square bolts. Square bolts. And some of these, so now let's stay underneath here before we get on that side, Bob. How about grating? Any popped grating of the spacers?
Yeah, the spacers are missing.
So what that means is when a fireman or a person steps and your leg goes through that, you get locked. You can't save yourself because now you're trapped with a bear trap. How about rusty tears? Any rusty tears indicating that water's getting into the connection?
Yeah, right there in front of you.
How about cement blowout into the back?
Yeah, you can see that too.
See cement blowout. Okay, let's take a look. Any damage from a truck or anything? Any bends on this fire escape?
Something
Okay.
looks like that might have been hit.
Got hit. Let's take a look at is it square heads or rivets on the supports? Are those original or have they been switched out in the past 50 to 75 years?
No, the original.
Original. To let this fire escape rust this much, how many years? To get 100% of your paint off your fire escape?
25 at least.
At least 25. Is there any paint that you can still see left? But even though there's no more paint on this, does this thing, which is older than 1978, have lead still in it?
Yes.
So it still has lead. Let's look at all the rust in between the connections. All this rust. Let's look at your treads. Missing spacers?
Yes.
And let's look over here underneath. Better before you climb up above. If I had my hammer, I'd do a hammer test. Any rust in any of the connections?
Rust in all of them.
Rust in all of them. The bulge. You can see all the bulges, right?
Yeah.
Is there any of them that if you were looking up straight up, can you see the sky if you look straight up on some of these? You look over here. You see that one right there? Can you look straight up?
Yeah.
How about this one over here? See all the rust? Any of these bolts that are holding as best they can, any of them totally gone? Are they all suspect in your mind?
All suspect, yeah.
Would you allow any of these to be welded and remain in place? Because that's a typical repair.
This has on the top 1/4 inch gap.
Yep. Now let's see how it lands on the ground. Is this all rotting on the ground?
It's all rotted out on that side especially. The
Yeah.
channel is completely rotted out.
So the channel is completely gone over there? Okay. So, and how much rust? Quarter inch every 25 years. How long you got of rust there?
Well, that's 75 years of rust there.
75 years. All these treads are quarter, 3/8, half inch. If I was to stomp along on these, you think some of these would give way? Some of them have been patched with some welded bars. This is a typical repair when these flats give out.
Yes.
Lots of bends and smashes. I'll go slowly up this fire escape. I won't go too far, but you got enough evidence here that this is a perfect candidate of how bad things get when you just leave it alone. Have your inspectors ever walked down these alleyways?
Yes.
And why didn't they write this one up?
Well, we haven't had the program yet. But we have.
Maybe they did and nobody paid attention. Maybe they didn't know what to look for. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? There's also other reasons too. It's just it's not the priority. People think these are great. They've always been great. That nobody's ever fell 25 years ago. Yeah. Nobody fell 50 years ago, and they think that these things are indestructible. But now this is what I call a hidden time bomb. This is a grenade with a pin already pulled out of it. A fireman or somebody coming out of that top is going to fall down these stairs and get hurt or jammed or stuck.
Yeah.
So this is part of the 101.3. All exterior steel or wooden stairs.
Correct.
Okay. Is this an exterior steel or wooden stair?
It is.
Is there enough water falling on it?
There's plenty of water falling.
Got obstructions?
Yeah.
This is fairly new. This is not. This is 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
Nailed together. Safe, solid. You think? We wiggle it a little bit. Okay. Does this need to be inspected on the 101.3?
It does.
So all exterior steel or wooden stairs need to be inspected. Need a permit to repair this?
Yes.
Renovator's license?
No paint on it.
No paint on it, but they can stain it. There's no paint. How about this one? All exterior steel or wooden stairs. What is this?
It's a steel bulkhead stair combination.
This is a stair. This is an egress. We're missing anything here?
Handrail.
Handrails are missing.
It's over 30
Let's
inches.
take a look at that. There's water falling on it. These are all metal. Any bulging rails or this looks like an adaptation to a bulkhead plus a stair,
It is, yeah.
but it's missing its rail. It's fairly 15 to 25 years old. You estimate? Does this need to be inspected and have a cert on this?
It does.
Okay, so because it's 101, all exterior steel wooden stairs. Now let's take a look at this one. Now this is going to happen a lot of times. You can't even get access.
Yeah.
So let's talk about access. This door right here, which has a lock, is illegal because now these people cannot egress. It's very simple. On the inside, there's a push bar.
Yeah.
That's all you do. So whenever you have these gates that do whatever this thing is doing here for the trucks, that must be able to be pushed out. So that's a simple modification to make that a crash bar door. And then if you mesh enough of this, you mesh this, then nobody can put their hand in and force the door open.
Right.
So that's a neat, but it's illegal to lock somebody in a cage. Now, let's talk about from down here, and I can't get any more closer, from down here, more paint and rust or more rust and paint on the entire fire escape?
It's about equal, I would guess, but
Right,
mostly
so-
paint, mostly rust.
Mostly rust, so it needs a paint job. Now, from down here, and I know you can't see to the 5th or 6th floor. You just need to look at the 1st floor. Any evidence of maintenance, any shiny hex head bolts in this 50 to 75-year-old structure?
No, I see a mix of square head and rivets.
Okay, square heads and rivets,
So it's 50 to 75
50 to
years
75 years old. No evidence of maintenance.
old. No evidence.
Is every connection on there suspect then?
Yes.
Any release arm on there that you can see that would let that
I
cantilever
can't-
drop 2 to 3 feet per second?
I can't see a release mechanism.
So you're not sure whether even the cantilever is balanced correctly?
Correct.
And you're looking into the cement into the walls. Anything that you want to share? Can you see any rusty tears and any of the cement going up?
Yeah, I see signs of spalling and rust
Okay.
at the
So
connection.
right from here, and what about the grading? Let's talk about the grading.
Yeah, you can see the spaces are rusted out.
Spaces are rusted out in a lot of the grading. So again, as an inspector from down below, and you start looking up, a lot of these buildings that are 50 to 75 years old have not seen a certification in at least 25 years. And it'd be great if they had a tag, and it'd be great if you can get out of this building in case there was a fire.
Yeah.
But here in this one little alleyway, we have a major egress system, and you talked about ACs in the windows, which is illegal, and you have units in in front of windows that people have to use to get out.
Well, they got the windows blocked off.
The windows are blocked off with the cages. Again, a lot of that was because of security issues, but that's not they have to resolve
They
that.
have doors that lead out to the.
And they have doors, but sometimes the windows are the only means for another apartment. The doors are from a hallway, but every now and then to satisfy that piece of the building, they use the window to get. That's why they put that little add-on. So don't think if all of a sudden there's a hallway door feeding it.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason why they put that little half circle there. That half circle is to pick up that window to meet the means of egress inside, because that is the only second means of egress for that apartment is through the window, which is now blocked by ACs and units. So right from here, you have a fire escape. So right in this building, in this alleyway, and I don't think we have any more down here, you have what 101 covers. Wood, all exterior wood or steel, fire escapes. And this one is the best because all original hardware on this one. And this was a great one. Don't you think that it showed everything that could go wrong with a fire escape, it showed on this one. And this is what you use in training. And look at the staircase. See the whole stringer, how it clips up there?
Yeah. All
All original hardware. So sometimes it's not the treads that'll kill you, it's the whole staircase will let go and fall to the ground. So we're going to go look at some more fire escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Lowell with Bob, the commissioner. And in this city, you touch a fire escape in the city, he wants a permit, he wants a renovator's license, he wants engineer oversight. Otherwise, this fire escape will not be allowed to be certified, or he wants a load test. Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training.
Welcome to Fire Escape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide.
So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order.
Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today.
Academy Inspector Training video. We're here in Westboro. We got Gino back here, State Inspector. We got obstructions, we got trees growing. Let's do a quick inspection. If I was the inspector looking at this fire escape, I'm hired as a fire escape inspector. I'll tell you what I found wrong with this fire escape. First of all, we got obstructions, we got a lot of rust. We've got this thing deteriorating into the ground. So all these treads you can actually just rip these treads. If I was to hammer test, I got rust growing in here. If I was to hammer test, this is where inspectors get hurt. They go up, and sometimes this thing will fall from an... Look at this, Gene. See, if you look at that side, you think that thing was going to give way if an inspector came down unknowingly?
Oh yeah, it's ready to go.
So this is ready to go. This is a loading dock, so this gets used all the time. So now I'll be careful going up because I'm looking for certain things. I got all this grading is supported at the nose, and this grading is supported at the back, and this whole rear is all rotted out. So, so now we've got loads of material coming in here, and so imagine some poor kid putting out a couch, a refrigerator,
The actual
and the
angle
rear
is gone.
the channel is gone. So if you get underneath there, Viv, and you just poke your nose underneath there, and shoot that thing.
Channel end is completely gone.
Now this is taking couches, refrigerators, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's missing its rail here, and a lot of times this is a chain rail.
That's right. Yeah.
So usually, if any kids get over here playing around, they could fall. So it's usually missing a passing rail. Look at the supports into the ground, how they're rotting, because it's just cemented into the ground, as opposed to being sitting on a pillar. That's another problem there. There's some welds here that I can't verify, but as soon as I put a bolt through here, I can verify this weld here by putting a couple of bolts in here. So whenever you get welds, I basically nullify the weld by putting in bolts. Look at all this rust growing in here.
Boy.
Okay?
That really shows you how much it will push out.
Yeah, it'll push out. A quarter inch will go to 1 inch.
Wow.
Now, if I'm going to go up,
another obstruction, a tree.
yeah, another tree. Though it's a very popular thing to have trees. A lot of people let vines grow. These vines will take a fire escape over in no time. Now, this whole fire escape is welded. Because it looks like they used to have treads here, and they came in and took the treads out and put in new ones. Do you see these rusty tears coming down?
I do.
That's an indication that whoever welded these, and they usually weld the nose and the back of a piece in the back. The water gets in from above and it starts eating these trees. So even though visually the weld looks good from the outside, there's usually only a quarter of them percent left when you step on it and the weld gives way. Let me see if I can find one that's ready to give on the way up. And that's on this side. If you look up straight up here, you're going to see quite a bit.
That's it. That's the one that's in.
Okay, so all these rusty tears are indicators that water's coming in from above.
The next couple of beds.
Okay, now as you can see, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do the grading up here.
Yeah.
So all this fire escape was kind of put together. So all these brackets and all these connectors here. The only way I can guarantee this weld, if it's not a rust build, all I have to do to not weld this, and you can't because of the EPA requirements, you can't weld on fire escapes. As soon as I put in 2 structural bolts here, 2 structural bolts there, then I seal this up with silicone. I don't have to verify the welding. This angle needs to be open. This corner angle needs to be open. Right. But she's legged to the ground, so that's just, she's just pulling out because freeze and thaw gets in here. Water gets in here, freeze and thaw keeps pulling, but it's a lag screw into an anchor into the wall. It needs a full paint job because it hasn't seen paint. And it's an all welded fire escape, so a lot of times, Gene, see this connection right here? All these connectors to avoid verification process. As soon as I blow some holes through them, I got this stringer welded to this thing. As soon as I put an angle clip in here, put 2 bolts in it, I've eliminated the need what could be a very good weld. But because I don't want to spend any money x-raying it, it's cheaper to put a bolt through with a clip. So this would here would take a bolt. This would here would take a bolt. Otherwise, verify that weld. So as you start coming down, you can see that the worst part of this fire escape is down here. To the point that there's even a dip in the grading because there's some heavy load coming in and out. Is this considered a life safety issue in your opinion? Knowing the traffic that comes through here,
Yes.
is somebody going to get hurt with a refrigerator, loading a fridge,
Absolutely. Potentially.
and it's never the owner. It's always Joe, helper. Now, even these treads, as you can see, the day that you can start grabbing steel that is welded and connected, and if you want, you can. You're not supposed to do this with steel. I mean, the only thing fighting me is this tree. It's not the steel anymore. And this is a good point. Even though it's the final tread, look what rust did to the connector. And that's the stringer, it's all rotted. Okay? So that's the power of rust left unchecked. Now, the cement issue on the ground, the bulges. Now, let me give you an answer right here. What we tell the clients to do, because snow will accumulate here. You clean this up, you're going to find a foundation of some kind. We get a sonotube, about 12 inches. A piece of sonotube. Rip it in half. Do this. Sit it on top of the old sono. You bring it up 6 to 12 inches above grade. Now, this thing is already in the cement. It's already wrong. Because you're not supposed to put steel or wood inside cement. Building code doesn't allow. I'm already too far gone on this one. But if I raise this 8 to 12 inches of cement, sono wrapped around, I drilled some holes, put a couple of rebars in the old cement to sort of marry the two together. Prior to that, I grabbed roofing tar, and I goop with my hands in a glove. I goop this whole thing up to 12 inches with tar. Then I wrap it in cement, and then I fill it with about 6 inches so that whenever there's snow, more than 6 inches of snow is what's going to be needed. But it's tarred 12 inches. So that whenever there's snow accumulating down here, it's sitting on top of tar. And then the last thing I put on this, when there's a new piece of cement, sono, I put in a clip that sits on top of the sono. Bolted here and sitting so that as this rots, and this will rot, what's inside will rot away, the new clip on top is the new foot. What's wrong is sitting inside, but I can't do anything about it because they already built it wrong. But there's things you can do with that. Scrape and paint, older than 1978, so EPA renovator's license is required. You need a permit to pull. You can't do any work on this fire escape. No welding allowed. So it's all bolted. So I can secure every one of these treads by coming here and putting in 2 bolts. I drilled 2 3/8 holes. Do I have to guarantee these welds anymore? No. As soon as I put in the 2 bolts, I've nullified the weld. I still will try to seal it on top so water doesn't get in there anymore. 50-year silicone is a great thing to have.
Actually, we're actually missing the behind here.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an unsupported piece of grading. There you go. And you can actually.
Yeah, we got work to do here.
Yeah.
We gotta
So
start writing.
these are the kind of things, because you get very few of these fire escapes are kind of whipped into a shape like this one. This is kind of brought here, and some guy had pieces, and he created this fire escape system. Most fire escapes, believe it or not, are built to standard, built to code. This, every now and then, there's one that's shoehorned in, and this is one of those that is kind of shoehorned in. But that's all you have to worry about is, do they know what to look for? Do they know what to expect? How do you deal with a welded fire escape versus a bolted fire escape? And all the codes associated. But if you have a permit that you pull, and you are the one overseeing that to make sure that the vendor who's doing the work is correct, and then there's the confidence test, is just the sign-off. Meaning, if I'm going to oversee this job, the engineer has to oversee. So there's 3 to 5 visits required by an engineer. So that if he's watching this and he's going to be signing, he can't do an initial inspection and a final inspection 6 months from now. He must schedule and get paid for by the owner an initial inspection review. The vendor is starting to do the work. He must show up when the vendor's working, watch the job, make sure it's going according to his standard, come in the middle of the job, come in the 3/4 of the job, and then do a final. Because he's signing off on a guarantee, on a certification.
Farescape Engineers Inspector Summary Video. Inspector Maness is here. We're on Brooklyn, New York. It's Farescape. Farescape is very serious condition. Ready, it's in a state of collapse. The entire Farescape is very, very bad. It has fallen, hasn't seen a repair or paint job in 25 to 50 years. We got rust growing everywhere. Everything is breaking. This is a great fire escape to learn what happens when you ignore a fire escape. That everything gets eaten. Look at all this. The bolts are still there. The bolts are missing. This fire escape, if you would step on it or a fireman was to step on this thing would collapse and kill or hurt somebody. Missing treads. All original hardware. This fire escape needs 100% refurbishment and a full paint job, as well as, because this was an addition to the building that they put in here, it used to go down to the ground, so they need a catwalk all the way down here. There's a bakery now. They need a catwalk all the way down here, up and over, and into this yard. Because right now you can't get down there any other way. So right now this fire escape needs to come down, but it needs a full refurbishment. 100% rebolting of every connection. All the connections into the wall need to be verified because they're all unverifiable, very porous wall. And as you can see, all the connections into the wall are pretty bad. So original rivets, reinforce or rebolt. Rails are bad. All the connections, all the heads are missing. You know, this is how much this fire escape has been ignored. All the original hardware, but all the original hardware, every single head is kind of rotted or missing. So, and the great the stairs. Look at this. Right now, we got tenants in this building, so this has this is a life safety issue. This is an active building, so we have to make sure that this fire escape issue is resolved. They got ACs in the windows. They've got blockage. But again, the fire escape is in need of emergency repairs, and it needs full repairs immediately because there's really not much you can do for emergency repairs without fixing everything. So it really needs full paint job, full repairs, and a catwalk system with a staircase down to the ground or a ladder to the ground down at this end. Any questions? Inspector Maness, Fire Escape Engineers, 800-649-3333.
changing the bolts is called a certified repair, because now, in lieu of a load test, you've done a certified, verifiable repair to the fire escape. And there's your two options. You always have both in your pocket. You tell the people, you get this fire escape fixed, and have your engineer convince me that you're doing a certified refurbishment of this fire escape, and I want a document that says so, with no disclaimers. Or, if we're getting this wishy-washy kind of play, do whatever you have to do, but then at the end I'm gonna order a load test. Because I'm not being convinced by your side that you've done everything possible for me to not order a load test. So let's see who inspects fire escapes. Nationwide, the code is very clear. Engineers. Sometimes they say specifically structural engineers, but every now and then they say a PE. Number two, in some states they'll allow architects. Not every state, but some states are allowing architects. Some places and some people believe city officials inspect fire escapes. The guy who was just here last week, you walked through and you said there was nothing wrong with it. Why am I all of a sudden finding things? So we say city officials do not inspect fire escapes. They identify violations. And as long as you write the correct violation, repair it, paint it, test it, you're good. Fire escape inspectors. Well, let's see how many licenses are out there. There's currently 2 licenses that touch fire escapes. There's one out of Boston, it's called a G3 license, and it says right on the code that structural engineers and or others can sign off on that fire escape. So we got vendors that have a G3 license that now can also sign off on their own work. Any problems with the conflict of interest there? We also have, Boston will allow me to sign fire escapes. And by the way, I signed for all of the Harvard University fire escapes. I signed every single one. There's not a structural engineer involved in that. So, but there's a license out of Boston issued by the building department. But Chelsea, which is the sister city right next door to it, doesn't accept the G3 license. They want a structural engineer. So every city says, structural engineer and or others acceptable to the building official. So if the city official doesn't accept it, only a structural engineer will do it. Now, the other license I hold and carry comes out of California. It's out by the fire department. It's called a Reg 4. And I have to pay $1,000 for just the privilege of applying for it. I have to pass a 100-question test with at least an 80+. Then I have to do a visit with a fire marshal and sit there and talk about fire escapes and how great I am at doing fire escapes. Then I have to go out to a site with the same fire marshal and do a full walkthrough inspection on the fire escape and show my great abilities. Then I have to fill out the paperwork that they give us and fill it out correctly, and then they'll issue me a license in which I can renew it every 3 years for half the fee. 2 licenses. So I can drive in Massachusetts and I can drive in California. Can I drive in Rhode Island? The laws are very clear. Structural engineers or others acceptable to the building official. So what does any inspector have to, even if he's just an architect or a fire escape inspector, he has to work with each individual city and make them feel comfortable that they're properly licensed. Otherwise, what the norm is, they say, yeah, I'm comfortable with you, but I need you to back it up with a structural engineer from the area. It's easy to do that. Okay? Because sometimes you got fire escape inspectors that are smarter than and have more experience than structural engineers. Yet you guys are only saying only structural engineers, and sometimes these guys don't touch fire escapes. Fire escapes are the trash can of their industry. It's 6 times the work, 1/6 the pay. People don't pay thousands of dollars to have their fire escape inspected. So when you force somebody to go out and get a structural engineer to inspect their fire escape and they're pounding the phones, guess what they're getting? I don't do that. I don't do that. I don't do that. And guess what they call back? They say, hey, you wrote me a violation. I can't find anybody to inspect. So we'll cover that today. This fire escape, I haven't even started teaching you what to look for, but must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. Just on the paint side, this fire escape has to fail. Messed up. So you say that it needs a paint job, right? And you write this violation, repair, paint, test. You haven't even walked on it, but you will never write scrape and paint this fire escape. Always write repair, paint, test. Because today I'm going to teach you that the way a fire escape rusts is not from the outside in. This fire escape, all steel, all bridges rust from the inside out. So if I can prove that today to you, that it took 25 years for all this paint to blow away from this fire escape, and it didn't blow away from the outside in, it blew away from the inside out. I will prove that today to you, not because I'm saying it, because a metallurgist used it in a court case, right? You now, when you look at a fire escape that's this rusty, and that's the same fire escape, that's an indication that somebody has not touched it for how many years?
At least 25.
At least 25, and the rust started in a connection, so now every connection in this fire escape, every joint is suspect. Who's gonna prove whether or not it's suspect? Is it you? Is it Joe the welder? Or is it the structural engineer? Or you can scrape and paint this whole thing. Can I do load tests on this? And then prove it that way? Right? So if all of a sudden somebody doesn't want to fix any of these bolts, and they just want to paint it, then just order a load test. They're great. Load test all the platforms, load test all the stairs, with engineer oversight. I'll be happy with that. And in 5 years' time, I want to do it again. So, structurally, does this fire escape pass or fail in your mind? Just walking up to it, you're like, is there anything dangling or? Pass or fail structurally, you think. You think in your opinion that it would pass or fail a structural exam? Fail, right? So, we were called by the secretary of this, because she got a report from an engineer. And the engineer wrote a report. And he had 4 bullets. He said, fix 1 tread, unbend 1 piece of platform, and secure a door. And give it a full paint job, and I'll sign off on this. Oh, then he has this little disclaimer that says, whatever I didn't see, can't help. So to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity to the code and has been kept painted. Can you grab that guy in the future? It's an opinion. So in the United States for 75 years, we've been getting opinion tests. Yet I come in, I do my inspection, look at all the rust, falling treads, eaten steel, every joint compromised, and this is a 8-story building. And the only reason this came to attention is because there was a lockout of some kind, and a police officer responded to a break-in at this door, I believe, and he fell through one of the stairs. Fort Lee, New Jersey. It was, believe it or not, this is the building. Fort Lee used to be the Hollywood of the East back in the days of silent movies. And this was a silent movie warehouse. It's now a warehouse. But Fort Lee was a big silent movie center, the East Coast Hollywood. So this is this here to say that, you know, Fire Escape Services is better than this engineer? No, there's no standard. This is called a fly-by, drive-by. People call, hey, I need a certificate, I need a certificate, I need a certificate. Yeah, $300 to $500. Drive by, look out the window, roll the window down, look out. My $300 to $500 check, great. Just to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, Fire Escape Services selling has been get paid. Is what your fire marshal needs. Thank you very much for that check, and it's a drive-through. 75 years of that. But now you say, no, before you go, fill out this, thanks for the opinion letter. And then you send them back out, this industry standard confidence test, and say, can you fill that also? Oh, I don't fill out any forms that are not, government forms. Oh, no. Then just read the questions and answer all these questions on your letterhead. And when he starts reading this, he goes, well, I really didn't check all those things, and there's some things in here that I won't sign, and some things I will, because some of these are statements. And one of the ones here is that every connection on the fire escape has no internal rust or rot, and I didn't do that on this one. So you give somebody a standard form they have to fill out, things start changing. And that's what we'll talk about. Industry standard, confidence tests, tags. So a couple of confidence tests that exist out there. This is the confidence test from LA. You want to go online, go to most likely la.gov, go to their confidence testing under fire prevention, and download one of their forms. And here it is. This form has a place for the owner's information, what kind of things you're testing, what's some general description, and the best part of it down here is give me the fire marshal, the building inspector, and anybody involved in the review of this fire escape gets to put in their information. The engineer's name, the fire inspector, the building inspector. This is our form that we generated from that. So I kept, first page, and I said, okay, I put in my checklist items and, the place for the fire inspector, building inspector, and everything here. And then I created a second page. Because right before over there didn't have, specific questions. So I added specific questions. I added a structural part, and I added a general part. The general is about the paint job, and working pieces is the single action requiring no special knowledge. The number one is all the rust gone internally? have you verified that this thing's connected back to the building? How'd you do that? Are all the cantilevers balanced and they drop 2 to 3 feet per second when they hit the ground and stay down? It's not a lot of questions. So from that, and all these questions, and again, we were called into Seattle, we taught a class just like this because 4 guys fell off a building from the 3rd floor. Anybody die? What's everybody doing? Suing everybody. You know who got sued? Seattle. You know why Seattle got sued? Because they accepted what? Nothing. So if you're accepting nothing, guess who gets dragged in every time somebody gets hurt? Because they're going to ask, what's the standard in your city? And if your city is, we don't do anything, well, great. Then you're part of the problem. You get sued along with everybody else. But if you start having tags and you start having confidence tests, okay, these things are going to change. So what came up? Well, we taught a class actually in Seattle and Tacoma. This is a copy of the Tacoma test. Looks similar? First page? Looks similar? Questions and answers, right? Second page? Tacoma went better, which we liked. Aside from having yes/no questions, which really scares the hell out of most inspectors and structural engineers, because these are statements now that you make. Tacoma did the annual checklist. I said, man, what a great idea. Not only do we have structural engineers every 5 years showing up, we make these people inspect their own building every year, because you look at their building every year. So when you come do your walkthrough, what do they have to give you? This walkthrough paper, right? As part of your yearly walkthrough. And where do you wait for them? Do you walk through the fire escape with them, or do you go downstairs and around the back and wait downstairs? Say, hey, we're done with our complete examination. I need the fire escape walkthrough checklist from you. I'm going to go in the back alley. I need you to start at the 5th floor and walk all the way down, operate all the systems, and release the cantilever and show me this thing in action. It's called the yearly checklist. Oh, there's huge questions they ask. Bolts and supports are not damaged. Paint's in good condition, and all moving parts are operable. Sign here. 3 questions. So now you're putting responsibility back on the owners to give you this checklist. And now you're inspecting, so it's a checklist item. So for 5 years, you get checklists, and whose lives are you putting on the line? Yours or theirs? And then every 5 years, you have a structural engineer give you a critical examination. This is what the tags look like in Seattle. They're 19 inches wide, 9 inches tall. Our tags are, we suggest, and let's take a look at tags while we're at it. Go to the tag page. Our tags are pretty simple, 8.5 by 11. You can print these up in your own office, because you guys are going to print yellows and reds. You'll never print out whites. And these tags are not a fire escape inspection. These tags are nothing but the fact that you've identified a fire escape that currently has no tag, and you can only leave during all your. You're not gonna go looking for fire escapes. It's not a fire escape hunt. You're going to be on this building doing your normal day-to-day inspections, and you just happen to turn around and you see another building that has a fire escape, and all you're going to do is take out one of your tags that you have that you run through a plastic machine, the laminators, with 3-hole punch with your zip ties, and you're just going to walk up to that fire escape, and it has a place here for you to fill out your information, but it says right at the top. Anybody reading this that sees that this is my building and I get there, it says, number 1, the first thing you do, contact fire official. Number 2 is have fire escape inspected, and number 3 is have it serviced and or load tested. Pretty simple, right? You haven't even wrote a violation, you've just identified a fire escape. So you write down 1 Main Street, you zip tie a tag to it, and you go home and start your process, because you're going to send them through the computer a request for what? Are you ordering a load test, or are you requesting one? You're requesting the most current inspection that they have. And they usually say to you, what? What inspection? So that request for an inspection turns into a violation for not having what? Properly maintained your fire escape over time. And if you happen to be there when you look at this fire escape, are they going to be pristinely painted, or are they going to fail one of the 2 requirements? Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. It's in all the codes, right? So what's the one they always fail? Paint. So what kind of, you write a violation that says? Repair, paint, test. They're going to call you up and say, and this is 30 days later, because you just tagged it today, Then you went to your office, and then the computer has this mailing process that sends things out, and it's about 30 days later. Or you will get a phone call, because I walked up to my building and I got a yellow tag that I've never had there before. But you know who called me and told me about it? My tenant. Because the thing that says Firescape has deficiencies. My tenant, who usually pays me my rent religiously, says, dude, that Firescape is how my children get out. How come it's not a, how come it says it has deficiencies? Can I hold my rent? If my Firescape has deficiencies? So somebody calls me up and says, I'm holding my rent until you fix this thing, because this is the only way I get out. So I call you right away and said, hey, I got this tag. My letter hasn't even arrived in the mail. I said, why'd you write me up? I said, oh, glad you called. I need a copy of the most current Firescape confidence test that you have on this, your record of maintenance. Do you have any exam? Give you your last exam. By the way, minimally, I'm going to ask you to scrape and paint it. Minimally, because I got that. I'm not even talking about anything structural, but the violation I'm going to write is going to say repair, paint, test. But do you have any evidence of maintenance? No, I don't. Great, then this is actually a violation now, and you write them a violation. So you're doing your normal day-to-day business, and as you trip over these fire escapes, just put a tag on. When you have pre-plans, when you guys are out doing pre-plans in downtown, and they're at this building doing pre-plans, and this is your line guys, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they identify on 72 Tremont Street a fire escape on the back, because they're on the back of a building looking at the back of another building, and they know that that's 72 Tremont. Those line guys now speak with the captain or whoever's the training guy there, say, hey, fire escape, 72 Tremont. From there, the only thing they need to tell you is, does it look painted or not? And is there anything dangling? They're called fire escape spotters. So they tell the captain, and the captain sends it to fire prevention. That's it. So now you got a bunch of extra eyeballs out there, and their job is just to identify fire escapes. Did it have a tag or not? No tag. Great. I'll take it from here. So they're not doing anything different other than spotting fire escapes and passing it on to the captain. The captain passes it on to you. This thing keeps going. Permits in the city. Somebody's pulling a permit. The first question is, issue the permit. Get it going. Trying to close the permit, they say, hey, by the way, do you have an internal or external means of egress as your secondary means? I'll take mine as external. Okay, before you can close this permit, because I know you're changing a light bulb in the kitchen and you're changing a pipe in the bathroom, before I can close this permit, I need a current certificate on that fire escape. Make sure you bring it with you, otherwise I can't close this permit. I'm renting an apartment building, and I need a smoke detector sign-off. And you guys come in, because I can't occupy until you give me my smoke detector sign-off. What's the next checklist item that's part of my smoke detector sign-off? A request for a current copy of the certification. Can you hold off that sign-off? No. Somebody knows their laws. They're gonna, you can't hold back, okay, you're right. But you're still gonna write the violation anyway. But at least it's a thing, I need a copy. Okay? And they like, oh no, I need the guy in by tomorrow. Okay, well then, here it is. Here's your thing, but you better have I need somebody calling me saying that you're inspecting this thing within the next 3 days. Otherwise, I'm gonna get these people out of this, I'm not gonna allow the occupancy. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have a second means of egress that's certified. Now, in the middle of the night, your guys are showing up on a smoky night, and they see a white one. And this is stuff that you can see from the ground. It tells you the date that it was inspected, when the next inspection date is. They're looking for color. They're not looking for dates and time and who did it, right? White means what? The fire escape is certified. Yellow or red means what? Yellow is basically all you're going to be shooting out, because God forbid you put a red one. You know what a red one means? Vacate the building, fire watch, issuance immediately of scaffolding, because they don't want to fix the fire escape. Scaffold it so that they can have a full staircase to the building. Otherwise, vacate your building. So these are the tags that are out there right now in use. Rust. You know, rust is basically between two pieces of steel that were never primed. Rust starts, when you build a piece of a rail, a piece of tread, or a piece of support, when you get 20-foot length from the mill, those things come primed. And when we put them together by welding them, bolting them, or riveting them 75 years ago, did we pre-prime them before we joined them together? Then when we seal this tread, this railing, this support in paint, And then if anybody's ever put a torch to a piece of steel, a piece of copper, doesn't it look like it's sweaty? Like it, you put it in, it goes, and it looks like the moisture just dries right out of it. Steel has that every day. Every day it sweats. Gets moisture in it and moisture out of it. Moisture in it. So if I got a piece of a tread, a rail, and it starts to sweat in between two naked pieces of steel that got joined together at a factory, what's the only thing it needs in order for you to grow rust? What's the two things you need? Air and water. So do I have any water inside that connection currently if the thing is sweating? Yes. Do I have any air if it's painted and sealed? No. So until the air gets there and you've encapsulated the connection, you don't got any rust. How long does paint last? You buy a can of Rust-Oleum, painting a piece of steel. How long does it last before you have to fully repaint it? 5 years? 10 years? Or 25 years? It says right on the can, 7 years. 5 to 7 years, depending on what side of the building you put it on. So how many people you know that have had fire escapes for 75 years have been religiously repainting it 100% every 5 to 7 years? And that's with today's technology. Imagine the technology back then was basically, gooseberry dyes and, some linseed oil as they were using as paint. But so do you think at any time in the past 75 years that these fire escapes have been cracking and exposing air to that moist joint that needs in order to stop rusting? And then as soon as the rust splits the paint at that joint, what's it start doing to the paint next to it? Gets under and flakes it. Gets under and flakes it. So with that, where does rust come from? From the outside in or from the inside out? So when you go to a fire escape that looks, it's all brown, most of the paint is missing. How many years it took to do that? 25 years. Where did it start? Inside. Is every one of those connections suspect? Do you know which one? Who's going to tell you? The engineer. So that's why you always write repair, paint, test. This is a facility, detention center for kids 17 and younger. So if your detention doesn't get you, coming out of the fire escape might. But look at all that rust at a detention center. This is schools. This is platforms. It takes to grow a 1/4 inch of rust on a tread. Takes 25 years to grow 1/2 inch, almost 50 years. How many years did it take to grow this piece? Now, your problem is as you guys keep walking up and down these 75-year-old fire escapes, which you're not going to do that anymore, unless it has a white tag. You'll have more than enough information when you open up the windows to look out. We're going to teach you how to look at connections, and from the ground you're going to look up looking for original hardware and evidence of rust in all the connections, right? That's all you need to see to write your violations. But the problem with you guys in the middle of the night when you're going up and down stair treads is how you fall. If you're going up the stairs and you fall through a set of stairs, you're going to fall